Welcome to First Congregational Church in Guilford, Connecticut, where we are fond of saying whoever you are and wherever you're on life's journey, you are welcome here. We're glad that you've joined us online this day. We continue to have our services in person with windows open. People continue to wear masks, and some do, some don't. You're welcome to come and be a part. We hope and pray that you are safe in whatever choices that you are making. On this day, we will continue now by rolling our shoulders back and opening our hands, our hearts, and our minds. Taking a deep breath in and breathing out. We breathe in the love of God, breathe out the love of God, surrounding ourselves in the Spirit and joining together for worship. This week, as the church bells tolled to mark the 11th day of May at 11 minutes after the 11th hour, a small group gathered in front of the church to pray, read poems, sing, and sign a pledge to love our earth in this 11th hour in which we are caring for our environment. Now, recently, we have reflected about ways to practice creation care. Our intern, Clara, in her sermon mentioned that sometimes we do not treat the earth and the beings therein with reverence. We do not always recognize the sacred, even in the moments of holy. An adapted reading from the poet who wrote The Sound of the Earth paints this picture. As I woke up in the morning, I saw the sunshine in the window. And as I walked in the garden, I saw the flowers that grow. The trees in the mountain gives us fresh air to inhale. It gives us water every day and fulfills life every way. How beautiful surroundings that we have. It's a gift from above. May we be thankful for what we have and share this blessing from a loving God. To share blessings from a loving God and to love the world and those therein sometimes takes effort. Today's passage from the Gospel of John takes us back to pre-Easter, pre-resurrection time. Confusion and anticipatory grief about Jesus leaving, departing, and even dying is swirling about the disciples, and they hear Jesus say this.
A new commandment I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another.
When I hear this text, the old hymn, "They will know you are Christians by your love," comes to mind. And then I am painfully aware that professing to be a Christian and embodying a loving presence are not always paired in the same person. It seems that God has been talking to people for all of time about how to love. The 10 Commandments were given to guide the Hebrew people in a behavioral covenant of sorts, and this new commandment does the same. Back in John 3:16, we read that God so loved the world that God gave us Jesus, love incarnate to be with us. In Hebrew scriptures, we read, love neighbor as self, which is a call to act in care and justice for and of a neighbor. One aspect of loving neighbor that we sometimes forget is that we don't have to emotionally love or even like someone to do right by them and do right for them. Growing up, one of my youth group leaders, Debbie Jo, very southern and beautiful calculus professor, said, "I might not like everyone, but I will love them with Jesus." That phrase has stayed with me. And in these challenging days, the power of her simple and complex statement, her commitment to act in her faith and to love neighbor, feels not as poetic, but as profound as Nietzsche's quote that is always connected with my spirit. He penned, "One must still have chaos inside oneself in order to give birth to a dancing star. So like the disciples, in chaos, confusion, and grief, there is resurrection and hope, dancing stars. And in resurrection and hope, there is an ability to choose to love, even without liking someone, as an act of faith, loving them as Jesus taught. I might not like someone, but I will love them with Jesus. May we have a mantra. Even though this practice can be painstaking, intellectually, we get it. Jesus repeats love neighbor as self, and the variations thereof can be found multiple times throughout the Bible. One theologian writes, Jesus could not be clearer. It is not by our theological correctness, not by our moral purity, not by our impressive knowledge that everyone will know that we are his disciples. It is quite simply by our loving acts, acts of service and sacrifice, acts that point to the love of God through the world made known through Jesus. When my father's Alzheimer's was robbing him, and his loved ones were seeing who he was and who he was not, we were frustrated, angry, exhausted, and oh so sad. In our depletion, we seemed to miss some of his needs. And my dear friend Charles came to visit. Charles walked in, he hugged everyone, and he went straight to my dad. And he took my dad's face in his hands, and with matching blue eyes, they stood there staring at each other, speaking without words. Charles said, "I love you, Reuben," and they hugged each other. Charles didn't love only my dad in that moment. He loved my mom, he loved Milton, and he loved me too. He didn't know if he could reach my father in that body shell that housed him. He just acted in faith to love one who was sick and imprisoned in the corridors of his mind. In Luke chapter 4, Jesus quoted Isaiah saying, "God's Spirit has come to me and has sent me to proclaim good news to the poor, to release the prisoners, bring recovery of sight, and liberate the oppressed." To love neighbor looks like that: good news, release, recovery, and liberation. Our job is to seek ways to embody these acts of faith. Sometimes it is caring for a family member in the ways that caregivers cannot. Other times, we march for those whose voices have been silenced. Sometimes it is making amends with those we've hurt. Church family and community. Loving as an act of faith also means hearing tough words and struggling with them. So get ready. Here they come. Professor Willie Jennings writes, "To be a Christian intellectual also requires that we confront the principalities of greed and violence. I have stopped ignoring the true history that men who founded this country were in fact bound by their lust for land, natural resources, black slave labor, and power to control the destiny and that of this world's indigenous peoples. I've also stopped ignoring the history of the gun in this country and its pride of place in guiding men in the performance of masculinity. We are a country that has never had power to resist death or its greatest power, violence. I've stopped ignoring the fact that greed and violence were the midwives of this country. But unlike the biblical midwives, these did not fear God. They acted like gods for us. Words to discuss, to reflect, to engage, to see how we best love one another." Helen Keller, who was without physical sight yet had great vision, wrote, We live by each other and for each other. Alone, we cannot do it. Together, we can do so much. Only love can break down the walls that stand between us. Sometimes we allow the wall of discourse to divide us. However, if we can turn discourse into conversation, listen and hear each other's journey, embrace the Spirit, love neighbor as self in a global manner, and love neighbor as Jesus encouraged his disciples, that is, that inner circle, that immediate faith community, we will remove walls and foster acts of love. Then we will find the rhythm of love, the hope of love. And we will allow us to choreograph the chaos, and we will learn to dance together. With so much to learn and so many dances to share, may it be so. Amen.
Love is patient, love is kind. It has no arrogance or pride. It seeks the good of others first. It keeps no record of wrong or hurt. It finds no joy in wickedness, but rejoices in the truth. kind.